Today I want to reflect on Luke chapter 9 verse 28-36. Jesus took with him Peter, James and John and went upon the mountain to pray, and while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw two men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him, Jesus. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep. But since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the two men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Not knowing what exactly he said, while he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him. This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent, and in those days told no one of the things that had happened. Thank you for joining me today, and let us go a little deeper into that reading and understand what that means. And when I think of that particular reading, what comes to my mind are of the people who want to solve problems in this world. I am one of those people that I want to solve the problems. How many of you, when you think your own life, are you a person who want to find a solution to a problem that you think is happening? Let me explain further. When you see a problem that you can make a difference about finding a new solution for, is that something that you will do? I think I am one of those people, and I've gotten into lots of trouble because of that as well, because I want to come up with a new solution for any problem that is going on. And so even before people ask me for a solution, I have a solution for them. I come up with a solution for them. And sometimes people do not want those solutions, but we all do. And that's why I want to reflect on this particular passage slightly differently, because Lori Hale she's an associate professor of theology at Augsburg University. And she says, when she reflects on this particular passage, it's a very beautiful way that she says this, that the cosmic hand from heaven, as Peter was talking about, this a cosmic hand from heaven came down, reaching down to give Peter a good, "You are missing the point" slap upside down. Hey, Peter, you're missing the point. And that's what Jesus wanted to do. Or maybe that must have happened. Or maybe that's exactly what I think must have happened. Peter, would you just be quiet? Really? Do you want to talk right now with what is going on after what you just witnessed? Don't you think it may be a good idea for you to be just quiet and just enjoy the moment before you come up with a solution? I think we all have that desire, because something that is happening, we are nervous. And when I think of this particular passage, I think of myself, and I want to say, when I'm in an awkward place, when I do not know exactly how to respond to this particular moment, I have my own solutions. I think I keep talking too much because I don't know what else to say, and therefore I have the temptation to talk too much. I thought of myself and I said, I understand Peter. He doesn't know exactly what to do. And the reading says he really did not know what he was saying when he said to Jesus, may I make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah, without knowing what exactly he said. And so I think there was a certain amount of nervousness in Peter, and so he's saying things without actually thinking through. So let's be honest, let's be real in here. I'm sure if you are put into those moments, those wonderful, absolutely powerful moments, you may not be able to come up with a beautiful an explanation to keep that moment forever and ever. We all have the temptation that when there is a beautiful thing that happens in our lives, whether it is celebration of a birthday, wedding, wonderful celebration of a church event, or anything that is worth absolutely that excites you, that is beautiful, we all have the temptation actually to to hold on to those moments because we want to replicate it. We want to make it again and again and again. So freezing those days and keeping it available for a rainy day when we are anxious and depressed and sad, those are the things that we want to hold on to. So I understand Peter here from that perspective. I know exactly what he felt, simply because he was nervous, but it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. He wants to keep that moment alive because when he experiences something incredible, when Peter experienced something incredible and powerful, something that he never ever wants to come out of, something he never wants to lose sight of, something that he wants to hold on to for dear life for the rest of his life. He didn't know exactly what he was talking about. And so he says to the Lord, Lord, I would like to freeze this moment. It is in this context I want to reflect church life, because sometimes when I go to church, it's a beautiful, beautiful experience of church. The worship is beautiful, the music is beautiful, the sermon is wonderful, the people, the sound, the emotional experience that I go through is absolutely powerful and beautiful. I just want to take more of it. I want to soak in that beautiful experience, and therefore I don't want to get away from it. Maybe it is something like when we go for a retreat, or when we spend once or twice a year a couple of days away from our familiar surroundings, and we have this beautiful speaker there, beautiful music, wonderful stay, wonderful looking place, and so when we enjoy that moment, we really do not want to come back, but then we do, simply because our home, the place where we are, we need to be able to return. And so this is the same experience for Peter. And so that is a thing that when I think of church, sometimes when I go back to church, when I experience a wonderful worship, I just want to soak in those moments. I want to freeze those moments. I want to go back into that. I want every Sunday to be that. And when one Sunday it is not as exciting as that is, then I have the temptation not to go back into that. And so it is here what I want to quote. R. Alan Culpepper says, what he says makes sense. Peter's attempts to enshrine the mountaintop experience wasn't just that Jesus had in mind. It is faithfulness is not every Sunday. Faithfulness is not achieved by freezing a moment. We all want to freeze the wonderful moments in life, but faithfulness is not achieved by freezing a moment. Faithfulness instead is following God in trust towards the future. That's Reverend Catherine would say that. Faithfulness is following God into the future without actually knowing exactly what is going to happen. We all have the temptation to freeze the moment because that's familiar to us. Faithfulness, whereas in spiritual life, means trusting the next day and still trying to do the next day and day after that, and for God to be present in life, and then God is going to show up. That's called faithfulness, trusting that God will be with us and God is going to show for the next day. It's like, I want to say that faithfulness in spirituality is like the little prince and the fox in that remote planet where there is sunset every 30 minutes. And so the fox and the prince, little prince, comes to meet each other, and each person becomes unique. It is trusting that the prince will show up the next day. It is trusting that the fox is going to show up the next day. And so they both come at the same time, hoping for the other to show up, and they have no clue exactly how that day is going to be, but they are going to be faithful, and they're going to show up, and they're going to enjoy, and they are going to give themselves completely when they are together. So there is anticipation, there is anxiety, there is sometimes the fear that the other person may not show up, and the experience may not be most beautiful, but still we show up. And that is the experience we are talking about in here. And those moments cannot be frozen. You cannot live in the past. Just because I saw someone yesterday, just because I had a wonderful experience the day before, I am not going to freeze those moments without actually stepping into the future. Maybe I could compare this to making a wonderful dinner. When I make a great dinner and the taste of that is so wonderful, I really want to freeze whatever is left over. I want to have more food left over so that I can have the same taste a week from now or a month from now from a frozen food. So I freeze the meal that I've created, I put it in the freezer, and then I come back and pick it up, and then a few days later I pick it up and then I reheat it. You think that's going to taste the same? Absolutely not. The fresh food, the way that I cooked, the time that I took, and the smell, all that I have when I cook a meal, that's not going to be repeated when I reheat it. And so reheated meal is not exactly like the fresh food that I just cooked. That's exactly what it is. So I have to try that again, and it may come back, or I may be able to cook that food again and again and again, but I may not. But the chance of me doing that, if I do it faithfully, I will learn it, I will understand it, I know exactly what the steps are, and I'll keep doing it. I think there is something to that, being able to go back and trying it again and again and again and perfecting it. And that's what faith is. And that's what Peter was asked. Peter, keep your mouth shut for the time being, please. Do not make big noise about it. This is what the Lord is saying, that I know this is a wonderful time with Moses and Elijah and me, and you're hearing the voice of God. And Father says, Peter, zip, 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 listen. And once again notes the difference between Moses' encounter on the Mount Sinai and with the 10 Commandments, and Jesus' encounter with Moses and Elijah, and Peter's encounter of Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. These are two things. Moses, when he came down from the top of the mountain, he had 10 commandments in his hands. When Jesus was on the top of the mountain with Peter, James, and John, they were given one commandment. And what is the difference between the two? The 10 that Moses came down with, and what Jesus was, or Peter was told by God the Father, zip, be quiet, listen to my son. Maybe it's easier to keep the 10 commandments than zip. It is easier to actually do the 10 commandments than actually keep quiet and listen. Listening to God is the key. So here it is what it means. Do not analyze the moment. Enjoy it. Do not talk, simply grasp it. Do not make plans for what to do next. Don't make plans for what to do next, because what comes next is not the same as what it is right now. So simply give in to that moment. Don't worry about how to do it better. Just celebrate what you are doing the best this moment. Our temptation is to improve on the things that we did. And I think it is a wonderful thing that we should be able to improve on things, the ideas, the experiences, the celebrations. Everything should be made beautiful again and again and again. That's our temptation. But when it comes to God, it is not about improving the things that we have done. It is simply showing up. That is what it matters, that we are show up. If you keep meeting God regularly, then God will keep improving everything else in your life. If you are present to God on a regular basis, God will make you presentable to the world on a regular basis. So it's just absolutely beautiful that if you keep coming to meet the Lord and to make him unique and become a friend and make yourself presentable to God and be present to God, God will make all the improvements and changes in your life and then make you presentable just as you are present to God. This is the dazzling moment of spirituality. When it is so dazzling, that is when you need to do simply this: return, return, and return. The dazzling moment of spirituality is the moment when you and I, when we are able to be quiet and let God speak, and we listen to my son. And that is what this is, the dazzling moment. So when we return and not freeze the moment, we become lights. We become lights ourselves. That is what transfiguration is all about. It is us becoming lights, our face shining with light, because we haven't had a chance to talk and we didn't want to talk. We just want to grasp the light, the incredible, powerful light of Christ on our face, in our body, in our personhood, in our personality, everything of who we are. That moment is transfiguration, and that happens only by one thing, by keeping one commandment that says, listen to my son. And when you listen to his son, listen to Father's son, we will be able to have a wonderful experience every time without us freezing the moment of the past. And so, let us never freeze the moment. Let us trust the next day. And then there will be the dazzling personality, dazzling light. And when we are present to God, God makes us presentable to the world in a way that changes the world through us. Thank you.